Good evening, everyone. I am finishing up a cold, so my voice is a little bit in and out. So I am sucking on a cough drop. I have my water. I have more cough drops, so we'll see what happens. Vera, you did a beautiful job of summarizing where we've been over the last few weeks. I really appreciate that. Very encouraging. And where are we going? And tonight we will be at the foot of Mount Sinai. The Israelites have arrived, and now God is going to speak to them personally. Next week he's going to give the law, and we'll understand better, why does God give us rules? Why does God give us the Ten Commandments? The week after that will be an interesting one, because tonight he's going to tell the people he loves them so much. He gives them the guide for how do they love him? How do we show love to God? How do we show love to each other? And then they build a golden calf. We'll talk about that in a couple weeks. And then to end our series at the end of this month, we're going to look at the tabernacle, the place where God decides to come and meet with people regularly. So that'll be the end of the Exodus series. Then in August, my plan is, and I'll mention it a little bit tonight, and I've told you this before, in the New Testament we have the love one another, or the one another commands, how we're supposed to get along. But actually, interestingly enough, the one another commands originate in the Old Testament law. That's where they come from. They're just a renewal. Jesus renews them and makes them fresh for us. And so I want to take August to talk about how do we relate to each other? How do we love one another? How do we forgive one another? How do we care for one another? And do that as a church. So that's where we're headed. I need to tell you one more thing. Next Sunday night, the start of my preaching will be a little bit different. While Andrew's here, my son, we are creating some content for the church to use. And so one of the pieces of content that we want to make is a helpful video for people who are new to TIF. And so during the service, I will be downstairs. We'll film a part of the video downstairs. It'll be a one-shot video. So I will come upstairs, go into the children's area, introduce our children's ministry, and then right at the time when I'm supposed to preach, Andrew will follow me into the sanctuary right up here, and I will start preaching and welcome everybody into the service. Okay, so we'll see what happens, okay? He's in charge, he's plotting it out, and so just be ready for that, and we'll see what happens. All right, so tonight, Exodus chapter 19. I wonder if you've ever had this experience where someone labeled you, called you something that maybe you were, maybe you're not, and it's stuck. Not just stuck on the outside, but kind of stuck on the inside. You may or may not know this about me, but I joke a lot about sports and stuff like that up here, but actually that comes from kind of a deep place in my life. When I was young, like these guys right here, I hit puberty kind of earlier than everybody else in my grade. And so my dad was like, everybody was like, you should play basketball because you're taller than everybody else. And what nobody knew at that time until I got on the basketball court was when my hands touch a ball, the nerve connection between my brain and my body severs. And I don't know what to do. My body turns into just this bumbling, and it was terrible. And I got made fun of, and it was pretty bad. And so what I could do though is music. I was musical, but and today that's cool. Like if you do music today, if you're a guy and you play the guitar or play the piano or whatever, that's cool today. In 1980, that wasn't so cool. Okay, that was Nerdville. Okay, it was bad. Yeah. So back then, all the cool kids, all the athletes, made fun of me. And, I got called a lot of names at school for being musical. And I played the piano for the choir and sang in the choir. That was super cool, So honestly, I can be really honest with you. Even to this day, when I get asked to go play sports or do anything sports related, like just even going to hang out near a basketball court is traumatic for me. Like I have this visceral reaction. I don't want to do it. It's painful. It's amazing how long that stuff sticks with you. What's the voice in your head? It may not be that, but maybe there's one. Maybe there's a voice that says you're a failure. Not enough. Too little, too late. Maybe for some of you, there's a voice that says we're an addict or divorced, an outsider. Those things just stick, right? The question is, what does God say about you? What does God say about you? 2 Corinthians 5:17 says this, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. See, the new has come. Here's the thing, though. Even though that's true, that's a true statement, and maybe deep down, God's done a lot of really great things in your life. I mean, he's changed you and worked on you or whatever. We still have this propensity to see ourselves in the old way. It still sticks with us. Every time that voice speaks up from the back of our minds, you ask yourself, is this who I really am? Is this really me? So that's one problem we have. Now, some of you may have a different problem. Today we get told all the time, you should be whoever you want to be. Just be your best version of you. Create your own self, right? But even after we try hard to do something like that, to invent ourselves, to create this version of ourselves, actually we're still really unsure. Right? It's really fragile. It's interesting how fragile it is. Why is it that when we decide who we are, that identity feels so uncertain? I'll tell you why, I think. The reason it feels so shaky is because when you say, this is who I am, you have to defend that every day, all day long. You have to protect it. You have to own it. You have to defend it. So what happens when somebody disagrees with you? What happens when somebody challenges that? How fragile are you? The truth is, most of us fall apart even when somebody gives us just a little bit of criticism, right? I mean, listen, I stand up here and put myself on the parade every week, and I guarantee you, if one of you just says something a little bit critical of my preaching, I'm like a basket case, No, I'm just kidding, but I can be. If I don't center my identity in Christ, then these little comments can actually do damage. It's true for you too, I would imagine. It's like we're wearing this name tag, right? You have this name tag on it that says, I've got it all together. The problem is, everybody else has a marker. And we're all walking around just scratching out stuff or writing new names on people. Deep down, we're not really sure who we are without other people's affirmation, without their approval. These identities that we create for ourselves, whether they're religious or secular, they're unstable because they depend on our performance. They depend on what we do. Listen, only an identity that comes from outside of you, outside, something that's given to you, is truly stable, can truly withstand life's storms. You might say tonight, listen, I'm doing just fine on my own. I don't need that. And that's true until it isn't. For some of you, it's your job. For others, it's your sexuality, your relationship status, your, social activism, your body image, your parenting, even your productivity. Those are all such fragile things to build your identity on, your sense of self. What happens when they shift or break? Who are you? So what if there was someone who could say something to you, tell you you are loved, you are valuable, you are important? It has to be a certain kind of someone, right? It has to be somebody important. You know, I've mentioned this before. We've many of you in here are language learners, right? So some of you can say ni hao, and some of you can speak fluently, but all of us went through a process of learning. So what happens when you go to 7-Eleven and you meet somebody for the first time and you say, ni hao, oh, ni de zhongwen, chao pang, you know? You've said like 2 words. And maybe you are fluent, like Andy up here, or maybe you're like me, and that's about all you got, and you're like, and so it feels good for just a moment, but then if you're like me, you're like, that's not really who I am. You don't really know me. It falls apart, right? But what if someone who actually knows you, someone who really gets you? You know, when my wife says something about me, or when my kids say something about me, that's positive, by the way, not negative. Keep that in mind. When they say something positive, that really goes to my core. What if someone truly great said something about you? He has. The Lord of the universe, the one who created everything, the one who flung the galaxy into existence, looks at you and says, "You're my precious child. I love you. You're valuable. I care about you. You're worth something to me." That's what happens in Exodus 19. That's God brings these people out of slavery, across the Red Sea, through the desert, brings them to the base of Mount Sinai. And he said, notice what he doesn't say. He doesn't say, now that you're here, I got some rules. That's not first. The first thing he says to them is, I brought you out on the wings of an eagle, and I love you. You are my precious treasure. Then he tells them, now here's how we're going to get along. But it's not that simple. Just like I mentioned a few minutes ago, even after God speaks, we keep listening to these other voices. It keeps showing up in our head. Some of you have been Christians for a while. You've heard God say to you, you're my son, you're my daughter, you're my child, I love you. But your whole week got wrecked because you made some post on social media and you didn't get as many likes as you thought you ought to get. And now you're devastated. Just think about that for a second. The God who spoke the galaxy into existence looks at you and says, I love you. And you let a group of people who don't even care about you determine your worth and your value. How messed up is that? Maybe it's not social media, maybe it's somebody else, I don't know. But listen, we've got to learn to listen to the right voice. We've got to learn to listen to the voice. Sin has hurt us. Sin has devastated us, actually. And it's made our sense of hearing, our ability to hear God's voice, it's affected that. Are you listening today? Jesus says this in John 10:27. He says, my sheep hear my voice. I know them, and they follow me. Do you hear his voice tonight? I want you to hear his voice. That's the goal for tonight. I want you to hear God's voice. Don't hear my voice. Hear God's voice speaking to you tonight. Over and over, you need to hear God say, you are my beloved. You're my precious child. I care about you. I love you. I'm for you. I'm with you. That's what the Israelites needed to know. And by the way, it's not just an individual knowing. It's not just you. It's us. Did you get that? God doesn't just say, I love you. He says, I love you. He calls the Israelites out as a people. You know, it seems like there's an endless list of options for us to be today. You can choose from any number of identities, any number of personas, but few of them offer real stability. What we're going to learn today is that our sense of who we are can only come to us from beyond us, a true sense of who we are. God doesn't just free Israel, and he doesn't just set you free to just wander on your own. He sets you free so you can belong, so you can be who you were created to be. And the only way to get that going is for God to tell you who you truly are. 1 John 3:1 says this, "See what great love the Father has given us, that we should be called the children of God." Listen, God calls you his child. Well, that's what great love is. Great love is when someone calls you their child. We receive our identity, we don't achieve it. So God's brought them to the base of Mount Sinai to meet with them, also to give them his law. Again, we're going to talk about that next week. And the reason for that, let me just give you a little preview, is because part of knowing who you are is also knowing how to live in right relationship with your Creator and with the people around you. If you can't do those two things, then you actually won't know who you are. That's the purpose of the law. So, what we see happening right now tonight in Exodus 19, God doesn't start with commands, he starts with a relationship. Let me give you an example. Imagine a child or someone who's been adopted after many years of living in the system, okay? When that child first arrives in the home, maybe some of you were adopted, so maybe this really speaks to you, okay? When that child first shows up in the house, let me tell you what hopefully doesn't happen. Hopefully this doesn't happen, okay? Andy, glad I adopted you. So glad you're in my house. You always sit on the front row. My wife says if you just would sit in the back, I wouldn't pick on you so much. But, you know, you're here, so yeah, maybe you should switch with somebody. Although, Martin, you're close up front now, so maybe I could, no, I'll stick with Andy. Andy, I'm so glad to welcome you to my house. Let me tell you how things work around here. Don't touch this. Don't touch that. Don't do this. Don't talk to me that way. Don't go outside unless I tell you you can go outside. Is that how you start the relationship? No. No. The way you start the relationship is by saying, hey, Andy, you're part of our family now. Let me show you your room. You have a place to sleep. This is your home. You belong here now. Hey, Andy, this is where we eat dinner. And this chair right here, this is where you sit. Because you have a place at our table. Hey, Andy, I have something else for you. You have a new name. You have our name. Because you're part of our family. Here's your room. Here's your seat. Here's your name. Then after you establish that love and belonging, then you can say things like, now listen, here's how our family lives. We speak to each other with kindness. We tell the truth. We apologize when we hurt each other. We do these things so that we can get along with each other. You don't earn a spot in our family by behaving right. You're already in our family. The rules only make sense after the relationship. Why? Because the child, hey friends, by the way, this doesn't just apply to adopted children. It applies to regular old children too. It applies to all of us. The rules don't make sense until you know you belong. Until you know you belong. If you start with rules, it feels like a test. Because if you don't live up to the rules, you're not qualified. If you start with who you are, you're ours, you belong, then obedience becomes a response to love. That's what God wants. He wants his people to respond to love, not act as a condition for it. Rules are good, but they don't create love. Okay? Galatians 4:7 says this, so you are no longer a slave. Slaves start with rules, friends. Slaves start with rules. God brought them out of slavery. You're not a slave, but a son or a daughter. And if a son, then God has made you an heir. How beautiful is that? That's true for all of you. It's true for all of you. This is what God is doing in Exodus 19. As it start, here's the 10 Commandments. He says, I carried you on eagle's wings. You're my treasured possession. Then and only then comes the law. All right, let's read what happens. Exodus 19, the first few verses. In the 3rd month, from the very day the Israelites left the land of Egypt, they came to the Sinai wilderness. They traveled from Rephidim, came to the Sinai wilderness, and camped in the wilderness. Israel camped there in front of the mountain. Moses went up to the mountain to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain, "This is what you must say to the house of Jacob and explain to the Israelites. You've seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, if you'll listen carefully to me and keep my covenant, you will be my own possession out of all the peoples, although the whole earth is mine, and you will be my kingdom of priests, my holy nation. These are the words you are to say to the Israelites." This is God's holy word. God gives them 3 big ideas, okay? Let me just cover them really quickly. First, he says, you're my treasured possession. You're my treasure. You're my possession. You know, possession's an interesting word, right? It belongs to you. God says, you belong to me. Remember, God is saying, you're mine. I delight in you. Remember, the Hebrews had just come from slavery. They were a kind of possession there, but not a good one. Now they're a treasured possession. Their value to the Egyptians was what? How many bricks they could make. How much work they could do. Now they're told that the God of the universe loves them. Not because of the work they've done, because they haven't done anything, actually, except complain. You know, and he still loves them. He still cares about them. This is ultimate belonging. To be treasured by God means our worth is not achieved by our performance or our status. It's given in love. Think about it. There's really very few relationships left like that. As a matter of fact, maybe there never were, except this one. At work, Martin runs a company here, right? Are any of your employees here tonight? No, okay, good. All right. Martin runs a company. I just can't imagine Martin, our dear German brother, calling somebody into his office saying, listen, you don't do squat around here, but you are really fun. And so, I just want to keep you around. I'm going to give you a raise, as a matter of fact. You just make me happy. Just show up, wander around, tell some jokes. No. Your value to an employer is what? Work. You got to do the work. Now, maybe you are fun, but if you don't do the work, you're not sticking around. Okay? You're getting fired. All right? It's school. Okay? Now, you got to go to school. That's just required, right? But even at school, you guys know you either belong or you don't belong, right? You're either with the cool kids or you're not with the cool kids. That's another story. Okay. In friendship even. Okay, sometimes our friendships, we value people because they're interesting or because they're available. It's really challenging to find a relationship where we just value somebody because of who they are. Maybe marriage and family are the last place where that remains. No wonder so many people today are asking this question: do I really matter to anybody? Hey, my people, my church people, every day you're walking around out here in the city and you are running into somebody asking this question: do I matter to anybody? How are you going to help them answer that question? How are you going to help them know that they matter to you and to the God of the universe? Okay? I'm going to help teach you. Before the Israelites have done a thing, before they even know honestly what he expects, what God expects of them, God says, "You're mine. You belong to me. You're my treasure." Romans 5:8 says this, but God proves his own love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. If you have any doubt about God's love for you, this dispels that. While you were like a complaining Hebrew, a sinner, talking bad about God, he came and gave his life for you because he loves you. This is the kind of belonging we were made for, not based on our usefulness, but on his unchanging love. God answers the question, do I actually matter to anyone? Yes, you do. You matter to me. That's what God says. You matter to me. This is the antidote to insignificance. The one who made us offers us a place with him. Second, he says, you are a kingdom of priests. A kingdom of priests. What does that mean? Okay, that's, we don't really talk like that today. That's kind of strange. Don't go up and say that to somebody. By the way, did you know I'm a kingdom of priests? Okay, that's weird. All right, here's what it means. Priests do what? Priests bring God close to the people, and they bring people close to God. That's what a priest does. So in the Old Testament, that's what priests did. They represented God to the people, and they represented the people to God. So what's God doing here? He's giving his people purpose. He's giving his people purpose. Listen, when you struggle knowing who you are, you also struggle to know if your life has any meaning. If you're a Christian, does your life have meaning? Maybe you're wondering that tonight. I can tell you it does. You have a mission. You have a job to do. You have purpose. You're to bring God close to people, and you're to bring people close to God. You're the conduit. We're not just individuals on a personal journey either, okay? This isn't just your journey. This is our journey, our collective journey. Simply speaking, there are no standalone Christians, okay? You don't get to do this by yourself. It's meant to be done in community. We were always intended to be part of a community, serving together, loving each other, being a witness to the world. That's why all the commands that God is going to give them talk about how we relate to each other, how we bond together, how we work together, how we serve each other. Why are you here? You have a purpose, all right? Finally, he says, you are a holy nation. That means they were to be set apart. The word holy has an idea in it to be cut apart, to be cut off, okay? But let me say it like this. Why do you set something apart? Actually, we do it all the time. If you go to your doctor's office, okay, and if the doctor, maybe you needed like a mole removed or something like that. And so, if the doctor just had on his table there like a scalpel that had a little blood on it, maybe he'd already taken a mole off somebody before you. And he says, oh, let me just use this one. I've already used it a few times today. It's a good one. Well, what would you do? I hope you would say, no way, I'm finding a new doctor, right? Because we know that those instruments should be what? Holy. They should be set apart. They should be sterilized for healing, okay? Some of you are great cooks in here. You know how to prepare food. You're really good at that. And one of the things you know is when you prepare food, you don't mix food you're going to serve to people with trash. If you've cut chicken, you wash it very carefully, and you keep the juice of the chicken from contaminating other things. You're careful, right? You're making the food holy so that it can be used to nourish people. Okay? I know I'm overusing that word, but I'm trying to get some ideas into your mind. The Hebrews were to be holy, set apart. Why? So they could be used by God. Holiness was never the idea that we were set apart and cut off from the world. It was cut off so we could be in the world and of good to the world. Okay? Holiness was not about hiding from the world, but being distinct in the world to bring good to the world. The laws that God is going to give the people to help them walk in holiness, to show them how to love each other and how to love Him. That's the power of the coming gospel to move out into the world in love and bring the blessings of the promise of Abraham to everyone. All right, we're set apart not to feel superior, okay? We're set apart to serve, to love, to reflect God's glory to all people. Maybe today you're here and you're wondering, who am I? Do I have a purpose? Do I belong? Maybe you know someone who's asking these questions. You can answer them. You can give them an answer. You have to lead them, okay? If they're far away from God, what's your job? You're a priest. You bring God close to them, and you bring them close to God. Where is their Mount Sinai? Where is their Mount Sinai? You don't have to take them out into the desert. It might be a Starbucks coffee shop. It might be donuts. It might be Louisa. It might be your classroom. Your Mount Sinai could be anywhere. Just get them there, please. Get them there. I'm not sure if I've shared this before, but actually, I was adopted. My mom got married when she was young, 17, and the man that she married was not ready to be married. And so she divorced him actually the week I was born. So we lived with my grandparents for a few years, and then my mom met another man, a wonderful man. And when I was 3.5, she married him, and he adopted me, became my dad. Actually, I didn't even know that happened. I was so young. So when I was like 9 or so, I was looking through the wedding photo album, and I was in all the pictures. And I was like, wait a second, this doesn't seem right. That was a little bit of an awkward conversation, but my dad, my adopted dad, he's my dad. He's amazing. He definitely had rules, but one thing I can say, I never, ever doubted he was my dad. Never. I never doubted if I belonged. I never wondered if I had a dad. I had one. He gave me a name. He gave me a home. When I grew up, I don't know, 22, 23, I wanted to find my real dad, my real father, I guess I should say, and just find out what he was like. So I went on a little bit of a search, and I found him. And I don't know really what I was looking for, but anyway, I went to meet him, and we began to get to know each other a little bit. He had grown up a little bit, remarried, had a new family of his own, and he did his best to, make me feel like a part. But I wasn't. I had a home. I had a dad. He showed up and he rescued me and my mom. He'll always be my dad. God has done the same thing, or will do the same thing for you. He showed up and he rescued you. He gave you a name. He gave you a place to belong. He made you his heir. You know the cool thing about adoption, at least in America, in Texas, if you adopt a child, if you have a natural child, you can disown them. It's really true. I can disown you. If you're adopted, you, at least maybe it's changed, but when I was adopted, you could never disown an adopted child. It was against the law. God will never disown you, ever. Once you're his, you're always his. Now, what does all this mean? okay? Every week I've tried to just talk about how do we live? Okay, what does this help us actually do? What's the power? We need the power of the gospel to change us, to help us, right? Okay, here it is. All of us and people out in the world, at some point in time, we are going to experience identity confusion, okay? Kind of what I was talking about back in the beginning. Some kind of dissonance between who we want to be or who we think we should be or all those things. It's a disconnect. I would even call it like an identity dysphoria, okay? I know that word's loaded a little bit, but I think it fits. It may not be gender related, but we all feel it from time to time. So when that happens, you have to take the gospel, the power of the gospel, and allow it to work its way into your life. It has to become something. It has to do something for you, okay? This is what we talked about last week, about the bread, okay? When God provided the bread, and Jesus says, I'm the bread of life. He is. He's the bread. And if you take him into your life every day, if you learn to eat him, to feed on him, he will help you. He will help you. So this is what you do, all right? So some of you tonight, I know this is true. When I made that statement, God loves you. You are his treasured possession. Some of you, that voice in the back of your head said, no, I'm not. God doesn't love me. God doesn't care about me. I can't believe that. So what you do is you take this, you remember what this says. Here it is. You're my treasured possession. The treasure, what's the most valuable thing in the universe? Anybody? It's not a trick question. Jesus. Jesus is the treasure of the universe, right? For all of time, for all of eternity past, he was treasured. He was honored. He was loved. He was in perfection. He was adored because he's worthy. He's worthy. On the cross, what happened? He willingly gave up being treasured to make you his treasure. Did you get that? He gave up his treasure so that you would be his treasure. If you'll take that and meditate on it, think on it, let these scriptures seep into every corner of your life, you will start to believe it. Okay, let me give you another one. Talked about being a priest, okay? Sometimes that job of bringing God close to people and bringing people close to God, that's hard work, okay? It's exhausting, it's difficult. There's challenges to it, okay? So you remember when you're struggling to serve others, you remember Jesus, okay? What does the Bible say he was? Our great high priest. He was our great high priest. Listen, you're going to make sacrifices, right? You make sacrifices to serve people. Every week, Martin makes a great sacrifice to serve all of us. I'm not trying to call you out. I'm just saying it's true. Martin and Frida make great sacrifices to serve us every week. And I could see that can wear you down. It can really cause you to be tired. So Martin, when that happens, here's what you do, all right? You remember Jesus. When the ultimate sacrifice was required, he didn't offer a sacrifice. He became the sacrifice. And that will give you the strength to go and serve others. You remember these things, okay? We take them and push them into our hearts. All right, let me give you one more. Some of you struggle with sin, okay? You've got a sin problem that you just cannot get rid of, okay? You can't kick it, okay? So you know you should be holy, separate. God calls us a holy nation, right? We're supposed to walk in holiness. How do we do that? You know you should be separated from this wicked thing in your life. You remember you remember that Jesus, the eternally holy, perfect one, untouched by wickedness, for a moment, was made to know sin. So 2 Corinthians 5 tells us, he was made to know sin and cut off so that you could be placed under his righteousness and loved forever. That's what this verse says. God made the one who did not know sin, that's Jesus, to be sin for us so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. If you're in Christ tonight, that's who you are. That's your identity. You're treasured. You're brought near. You're forever loved. Can you just rest in that? Can you just take a moment right now? Maybe that voice is going to come back later. I've given you some tools to help fight that, but just for this moment, can you just rest in that? I believe that. Trust that to be true. And if you're here tonight and you're not in Christ, can I invite you to come near to him? I'm trying to act in that priestly role, and I'm trying to bring God near to you tonight. This place could be your Mount Sinai. I'm bringing God near to you. Would you come near to him? In just a moment, we're going to take communion. Let me ask John to go ahead and come on up. He's going to lead us tonight. Mount Sinai was where God first met the people. There was another mountain where God met people too. It was the place where Jesus went to the cross. And that's what communion is about. So let me ask the ushers to come and all of you to bow your heads and begin to prepare your hearts for this moment.